Sox in the basement.
A busy weekend for the White Sox. We're going to get into it. There was also a SoxFest, a really watered-down SoxFest compared to what it was like when I was younger. But James Fox of FutureSox was there. He conducted a few interviews, some personnel, some players. We're going to get his insight into the weekend. Before we get into this episode, a quick note for you. Recorded this before all the details of the deal with Boston. And wasn't sure how much of the money the White Sox are going to be picking up this year for Hicks. Now Bruce Levine getting it out there that with the trade that included Jordan Hicks and his big money contract that the Red Sox were dumping. Here's the tweet. The trade for Hicks gives the White Sox 3 players for Luis Robert and his $20 million contract, $4.5 million for Hicks. Boston paying $8 million of his $12.5 million in 2026. Austin Hayes $6 million. Closer Sir Anthony Dominguez $10 million this year. And Bruce goes on to write at the end of his tweet, big market with little revenue streams. Now, I don't know what those last 6 words were meant for, unless it was just to make sure he gets a good spot in the line at the buffet at the ballpark by kissing up to Jerry Reinsdorf. And I suspect it was tweeted from his hospital bed because he threw out his back carrying all that water. But good information at the beginning of the tweet from a journalist. If you're watching on YouTube, you saw that was in quotes. I mean, what was the point of that at the end? Let's get into the show. So Sunday night, Ed and I texted like little girls. I hope it doesn't offend anybody.
A lot of emojis,
like,
a lot of hearts.
We were like teenage girls texting last night. There were hearts, there were emojis, there was shorthand on there. There were things that only we would understand, right? There were a lot of mistakes too. I'm really bad with the autocorrect, and I send off things that make no sense. And you seem to be able to read it. That you get me, Ed. And it was all about this White Sox team. It was all about stuff that came out over the weekend, over the last several days, about the last episode of Sox in the Basement. We might touch on a few things that I learned with that. That was 2 guys that were behind a biomechanical study at the White Sox commission. They told me there's another one that they've just been commissioned for. So the Sox are not done with that group, trying to learn how to make better hitters. And if you missed that, go back and get that anywhere podcasts can be found and always at SoxInTheBasement.com. And they are going to be an entry in the $1,000 guest bounty. Brought to you by Cork and Carry at the Park, that episode filmed there. $1,000 going to who can bring us the best guest of the off-season. The listeners will vote in the month of March during spring training. And somebody's going to win $1,000 from Cork and Carry at the Park at the corner of 33rd and Princeton, the official home of Sox in the Basement, your place for pregame, postgame, and in-game viewing, and the place to be all summer long with a team that I think is going to be far more exciting than they're being given credit for. Like, I think the over-under on wins right now is somewhere in the mid-60s, and I would bet the over, especially if they go out and add a real starting pitcher. Let's think about what they did so far, and I think a lot of the show is going to be just like our text strand, my friend. Just kind of like thoughts on this team, especially over the last couple of days. Austin Hayes gets signed to join the outfield. It's one of the things that we've been clamoring for. Add an outfielder. It's not blocking anybody to bring in somebody who can play. We already know that Benintendi may not be able to play the entire year out there, maybe moving to a DH role. I kind of envision him being there 50% of the time out in the outfield and 50% of the time in a DH role. The other 50% of the time, you'd see Teal and Caro both in the lineup at the same time, which is why I would carry Corey Lee. But now you've added a real outfielder out there. You've got all these other young guys that you're bringing along. Benintendi's still capable of standing out there. I think Acuna's the odds-on favorite to stand in center field. You then went out, you picked up a salary dump essentially from the Red Sox to get a pretty good prospect. You get a prospect starting pitcher that I think was ranked 11th in the Red Sox system. They just have too many. They have too many starters. They have too many guys that are on the cusp of making it into a rotation, and they're competing. They don't have room for these guys. Sox get the prospect by taking on $17 million for Jordan Hicks, who Chris Getz has already said is not a starter on the White Sox. He's going to be in the bullpen. I think he'll be very effective as a 6th inning reliever. I don't think you're going to see him very much at the end of games because when he's been tried out there, he's very inconsistent and he puts on way too many guys on base. Too many guys get on base with Jordan Hicks. But if he's part of your bullpen, and you're going to overpay a little bit to get a prospect, that was promising. And in the end, $22 million taken off the books in the trade of Luis Robert Jr., $43 million by my count, added since then over 2026 and 2027, and I don't think they're done yet. What did you feel when you saw Hayes, when you saw the Hicks move, as you see this team now in the list of the 26 projected guys most likely getting on the roster, and there's plenty other on the 40-man and non-roster invitees that could actually make this team? What are you thinking, my friend?
Chris Getz keeps answering questions, okay? And there were questions all over the field. There were questions in the outfield. There were questions in the bullpen. There's questions on the rotation still. But he keeps answering them, right? We don't need to worry about an outfield of Luis Angel Acuna and who we don't know. We know that Luis Angel Acuna will get a shot to start in center, okay? And we know that Austin Hayes is going to be penciled in out there. And we know that Hayes is going to be somewhere in the middle of the lineup, and he represents that guy that's been there that can help Colson Montgomery, can help Edgar Caro, Kyle Teal, all these young guys, but mainly Montgomery, with being somebody that's there. And it's somebody besides Benintendi who is often injured, not reliable the past couple of years in terms of staying on the field. Getting Sandlin and Hicks for Gage Zeal is a nice move, and picking up Hicks' salary. I mean, going off of what MLB Trade Rumors says, he's recovered from having toe and shoulder injuries, and he's at 99.5 miles an hour in a recent bullpen session, which means that Hicks has the arm that he's supposed to have, right? So as a reliever and as a guy that, yes, you're paying for him and Sean Newcomb to come in and help settle down that bullpen. And I know everybody's got Newcomb penciled in as a starter, but he's a
bullpen guy.
He's a
bullpen guy. I'm going to tell you this right now. The bullpen becomes incredibly strong with him in there. I think the intention is to put him in there. And I still think that they're going to go out and get a starting pitcher. Looking at the Hayes thing, first of all, take out his 2024 season and throw it in the garbage. All right. He split time between two teams. He only had about half the at-bats of what a starter would get. I want to say a lot of that was because of injury. He didn't have a good year. But if you look at his year 25, year 26, year 27 seasons, and his year 29 season last year, that 748 OPS and about 15 home runs a year is really what he is. And you're gonna have an actual everyday real outfielder as one of the three that are out there, and you needed that. You needed that stabilizing presence. Now you go and you look at the rotation. That's what the issue is now. I don't think it's the bullpen. I think Newcomb moves into that bullpen. I think that bullpen is pretty much, there's not a lot of room in there. Dominguez, who you picked up to be the closer is going to be in there. Grant Taylor and Mike Vassell, unless they go to spring and convince them that they should be in the rotation, I think what we're looking at is two guys that are multiple inning relief pitchers that still have the potential to one day challenge to be in the rotation, but they're going to be solid in that bullpen. Jordan Hicks now, the way he throws the ball, Jordan Leisure, I would imagine, makes that bullpen. You got two Rule 5 guys that you picked up that I think are making it into that bullpen. I think Newcomb moves into there. That's all the spots.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're going to be letting go of one of those Rule 5 guys if somebody else breaks in there. That bullpen is going to be a highly competitive thing throughout spring training. Pitchers and catchers going to be here in about a week, and that's going to be a highly competitive thing to get in there. So then, assuming that Newcomb, as I think the smart money is, out of town stupid will say that he's in the rotation. Guys that were watching too much Bears football and weren't paying attention to what was being said by the front office will think that he may have a shot at the rotation. People who have never looked at his baseball card will think, oh, maybe he could be a starter. No, he's much more effective as a relief pitcher, and I think that's what he's going to be. So what you have is you have Shane Smith and Davis Martin. You have Anthony Kay. What they need to do is they need to sign a pitcher right now, or at least in the next week or so, because you want to get him in the camp. But go out and get that one pitcher that's going to give you 150 to 200 innings, somewhere in that range, like 170, like a real veteran pitcher. Give him a job on this team and solidify your 1, 2, 3 with K sitting in your 4 spot, because he's basically the Eric Fetty roll of the dice. And then the field, Burke, Cannon, and everybody else that's trying to make this team right out of the gate as a starting pitcher is going for the 5 spot. Knowing that Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith are showing up at spring training, knowing that Drew Thorpe will be back at some point. But solidify things walking out the door. And if you look at the guys that are available, Ed, I I'll just start naming off guys. You tell me when I get to a name you wouldn't take. These are guys still available in free agency. Like you're not getting Framber Valdez, right? You're not getting him. All
Too
right.
expensive.
And there might be another guy on here you're not getting either. But I'm just going to go down the list after. I'm going to cross him off and just go down the list. Nick Martinez is out there. Chris Bassett, I've already heard several beat reporters say that that's somebody the White Sox might be interested in. Zach Gallen. Zach Littell.
Zach Gallen, I don't think they'll do because of the qualifying offer.
That's right. Okay, so cross him off. Zach Littell, 30 years old.
I'd take him.
I take him. Patrick Corbin, I take. Even though I don't like his whip that much, but he at least is going to eat innings. Eric Fetty's back out there. You could reunite with him. Justin Verlander.
Oh, yeah.
Miles Mikolas. I don't like his whip. I don't like his whip. He puts too many guys out.
Miles Mikolas of about 4 years ago, I would have taken. Miles Mikolas now, I'd probably pick.
No, not at 37 years old. Nestor Cortez, he'd be interesting.
He's fun to watch anyway. I don't know how he's a guy that because of injuries might be better than what his recent numbers were.
Yeah, I'd go grab him. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Lucas Giolito's still out there. And you
know how to fix him.
And you know that Jose Quintana just every once in a while pops up on the White Sox.
Yeah, but
okay, so now we're getting the guys that you're like, no. But I mean, like there's a good group of names there.
Quintana's a little too far away from being he's Jose Quintana's kind of like Miles Mikolas, right? These are guys that if you're doing this, you're giving them a minor league contract and an invite to spring training and saying, show me that you found the fountain of youth. Show me that you are who you were a few years back. And when they talked about like Griffin Canning, we're talking about like, well, show me that you've recovered from your injury and we can turn you into something better than what you've shown.
Yeah, that's not who I want. I don't want Griffin Canning.
No,
I don't.
No.
Like at this point, that's not what I'm looking for. Like, how about
those names?
Tomoyoki Sugano. He was he had his first year in the majors last year at 35 years old for the Orioles. He says he wants to pitch again. He went 10-10 with a 4.64 earned run average and a whip of 1.33. You know how I like him below 1.3, but that's pretty close. And I remember he was really good in the first half of the year last year because I even had him on my fantasy baseball team until he kind of came back down to earth. Like, here's a guy after only 1 year in the majors may have learned what works, what doesn't work, and he's looking for a spot, and I don't think anybody's looking at him right now. I take him. I would take him in his 160 innings pitched and put him in there in a role in your rotation. Like, that's what this team needs. At this point, I love my infield. I've talked about that before. I love my infield. I love my two catchers and Corey Lee behind them, right? Like, I'm okay with Luis Angel Acuna in center field when you have Austin Hayes out there now. Benintendi may or may not. I don't know how much he's going to be playing in the outfield. And you've got this group of young guys that they're trying to find a couple of hitters out of, from Jared Kelenic to the several other names that they picked up that are on the cusp coming out of AAA into the majors. And my bullpen looks like it's just going to be a murderer's row in spring training of guys trying to make the team that have skill. Let's see who makes it. My problem is your rotation. You give me that pitcher, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a team that'll be exciting and may challenge to be a 500 baseball team. You're going to get me being way too positive on this show, and it's going to throw people off. Switch to a new age of life with Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living. Make it so they can get around on their own and live independently with stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, and even bathroom remodeling. Hyatt's going to work with insurance and has 0% financing for qualified individuals. If you use a CPAP machine, you're unhappy with your vendor, switch now, get supplies directly mailed to you. And you can test it all out in their big, beautiful showroom on the southwest side. Hyatt Home Medical Equipment also has the latest and greatest in continuous glucose monitors. See what they can do for you at hhme.com. I'm telling you, they're a pitcher away from me saying, great offseason, let's play ball, and I'm buying more tickets than I originally was going to do this year.
Yeah, Zach Littell's 186.7 innings last year and 1.10 whip. It sounds really good in the White Sox rotation.
How is he not signed yet? Like, is there something wrong with him? Like, is somebody listening right now going, well, his arm fell off and you guys forgot that? Like, did we look that up? I mean, I don't understand why he's still sitting out there.
I don't know either.
I'm looking it up. You talk about him. I'm going to look it up and see if we're idiots. Or if the whole league is stupid. I can't figure it out.
Well, and it's one of those two things. I mean, it's possible he's asking for way more than he's worth because he's coming off of 2 really good years. It's entirely possible that a lot of these guys that we just listed off are, guys that are either overvaluing themselves or are, viewed as risks. I mean, Chris Bassett been steady as anyone. Okay, but he's also 37 years old. So this is probably one of his last contracts, and he may want to go to certain teams only, and he may want a certain amount of money that he's not willing to take. Nick Martinez is a guy that's bounced between bullpen and starter, and he's useful, but he's the kind of guy that I think gets mostly like those last second offers of, well, crap, we probably should have somebody else. And everybody else that's up and down this list, I mean, I'm sure Scherzer and Verlander will get signed at some point, but they are probably being ultra picky as well.
And by the way, Littell is totally available and healthy.
Yeah.
And has had multiple seasons where his whip is well below 1.2. Like, it's so funny that you don't hear about it very much. It looks like the Yankees are kicking the tires. The Brewers are kicking the tires.
Right.
The Rays are kicking the tires. If the Rays are kicking the tires, though, then he's got to be within the kind of salary range that the White Sox are in. These are teams that operate similarly.
Especially because the Rays got rid of him because of how much he cost.
Right. So the fact that they're turning around there, it took me 2 seconds to find that the Rays are kicking the tires on him. He may be out of their price range, but then again, like Chris Getz has surprised me here with some of these moves. Because I think a lot of people, it's really interesting if you think about the last week and a half. They moved Luis Robert Jr., and there were people on Chicago radio, so-called experts, not us. I was convinced they were going to spend the money. I kept saying I'd be mad if they didn't, but there were people that were saying this is just a salary dump, and they're not going to use this money.
No.
And they used more than that money since that time. Like, now the impression that you should have is that the White Sox had a little bit more room in Chris Getz's budget. And then getting Robert off the books really was flexibility, where he wasn't trying to figure out how to manage $20 million. Now he's managing 40 or whatever the number was, because he's added a good amount of salary in 26 and on his 27 as well. He's added money, especially with that Hicks pickup that he just did this past weekend in the salary dump. So, like, you wonder if there's any more left. I still think they're looking at starting pitching. They keep saying it. And so, like, what is there? Like, he wouldn't be a bad pickup. I'd pick him up for multiple years. I just don't know. I think that the problem is that the way that the White Sox operate, the way that Jerry has put like a self-imposed salary cap on his team, I think that because of that, they won't be able to get a guy like Zach Littell. Like, I just don't think that happens because he's going to want multiple years. He's 30 years old. And so I don't think it's something that they're going to be able to go out and get. But as we get closer and closer to spring training and the music is going to stop and pitchers are going to be without chairs, there should definitely be a pitcher out there who could be an effective middle of the rotation pitcher and eat innings for you. And the moment you do that, and you increase competition amongst the young guys that try to force their way in there, and you give stability to the rest of the team, including these young players who you don't want out there feeling like they have to score 7 runs a game because there's not a good starting pitcher on the mound 3 out of every 5 days. Like, it would be a big addition. It would really help your team in development to add that one more starting pitcher, that legit starting pitcher. Sox in the Basement listeners trying to make the most of your money, give a call to Tom Walsh, your Edward Jones financial advisor. Located on the corner of 111th and Kedzie, but serving the Chicagoland area, Tom has a get-to-know-you approach and a do-the-right-thing attitude. He's been doing this for decades. It's all about knowing your options when you're investing and planning for your retirement. No matter what stage you are at, it costs nothing to check in with Tom. Give Tom Walsh, your Edward Jones financial advisor, a call today, 773-779-0023. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Okay, hopping on the line with me right now. Been on the show so many times, he's like a regular. He is a regular. He's James Fox from FutureSox. How are you, James?
Good, man. What's up?
Oh, man, I'm excited about this past weekend. I didn't go to SoxFest. I know you were there. I know a lot of Sox fans were there. Well, not a lot. I mean, let's be honest. It's a smaller version of SoxFest. I know that one day was just for season ticket holders. It's not what I remember it to be, but there was some exciting stuff that happened. You see a trade. We had the signing of Austin Hayes right beforehand. They have not stopped making moves. I still believe, when we talked about it on this episode, that a starting pitcher is badly needed. And if they could bring in a guy who pitched 150 to 175 innings to sit in that 3 spot, to just sit in the middle of that rotation and kind of solidify things, this is going to be a really exciting team. And I would love it if they did that one more move. I don't know if you got a feeling at SoxFest, if you think there's anything else on the horizon. What did you feel being there this weekend?
Well, yeah, so it felt like there was more coming, right? But it was also before the Boston trade, right? I think the thing that's funny is, and you and I were on the same page of this all along with the Robert money. It's like Chris Getz is like, wait, how much can I spend? Okay, so I'm going to trade this guy. He literally spent like down to the last red cent, like, you know, the leftover Luis Robert money. Now, you know, does that mean he can't go over, right? Because, like, look, maybe he had $7 or $8 million left in the budget, and then he traded him and got 20 more on top of that, right? Like, I don't really know how that works. I kind of agree with you. I think there's a pitcher coming. I just think the market's really weird with Valdez and Gallen still out there, where these other guys aren't signing. One of the names that I heard them linked to kind of throughout is Zach Littell.
Oh man, we were just talking about this. It's like you knew what we were talking about, because Ed and I just went back and forth on the idea of, can they afford him, because he's a guy he's had some pretty good numbers the last couple of years, but I would love to see him on this team.
Yeah, so that's my question too, like the affordability, right? But there's a lot of guys out there. There's Giolito, which I don't think is like, you know, really possible. And Littell's a fly ball guy, so I don't know how great that. But I mean, the way Reinsdorf does these contracts, right? If it's like $7 million in year one and the buyout is $3 million that he can count towards next year, where the guy gets $10 million, you know, like I could see that potentially, like something like that working. He's just a specific name that I had heard them linked to. Now, might they be done after the Boston thing? I mean, I guess sure. I guess that's like possible. That's the one spot I don't really feel that great about coming in. Like, if Sean Burke's my 5 starter, I feel pretty good. If he's my 4 and then there's like 5 guys battling for 5, I don't feel as great. So yeah, I'm with you with the starting pitching thing. I hope that's the last move.
All right, so we look at this team right now. I've said it a few times. I like my infield. I mean, I'm willing to give Miguel Vargas another year to see, was that his best? Is that his base and he grows? He's still younger. I like what we've done at first base with our big free agent signing. I'm a fan of Chase Meidroth. I'm excited to see what Colson Montgomery can do. I got 2 good catchers. I like the fact that Austin Hayes can be penciled in the outfield. Luis Angel Acuna is an interesting name, and there's a lot of young guys on the cusp of the majors, or like a Jared Kelenic type, that there might be a little tweak that all of a sudden changes something. I'm kind of good everywhere. What have I missed? I know you listen to the show. I know that you're looking at the same things as me. What are you excited about this year, especially coming off of this weekend?
Yeah, I think, like, look, I'm a little worried about the starting pitching, but I think it's like it could go from like a worry to a strength in a hurry if guys who we talk about on my show are actually good, right? Because so, like, I do think Noah Schultz, like, you look at prospect rankings and it's a little bit weird. It's like all over the map, right? Noah Schultz was hurt last year. He had patella tendonitis in his plant leg that really derailed him. So I do think that he's like one of these premium high upside, like, lefty starters that we're going to see like at some point this year. Now, does that mean he's great, like in his big league debut? No, but you have a couple of guys who could pitch at the top of a rotation potentially. I do think he probably needs a little seasoning because they sent him to Charlotte for a reason, right? But a guy like Hagen Smith, who did struggle last year, but then he was good at the end of the year. He was good in the Arizona Fall League. I think if you send that guy to Birmingham and he's good in like 4 starts or 5 starts and he looks like the Arkansas guy, just bring him up. Because he's not going to get any better pitching in the minors. So and then Tanner McDougal is a guy who was paraded around all weekend, who's going to be another fan favorite if he's good. I think the starting pitching, like, you start bringing some of these guys in and it's like another even more like exciting part, right? Because their staff is like okay, but it's not hard. They're not hard throwers. Whereas like these other guys could be the hard throwers. And then the bullpen, I think, is actually pretty interesting right now, especially if they could get Jordan Hicks figured out. You know, it kind of allows you to use Grant Taylor and Mike Vassell like all over the place, which I think is helpful. The idea of Jordan Leisure, the closer, didn't really excite me as much as like Jordan Leisure, like 7th inning leverage guy. So I think that part is good. I think that, you know, the bullpen is finally to the point where maybe they won't have as many like frustrating one-run losses they had last year.
So you guys were tooling around SoxFest. You spoke with a lot of folks. I mean, Mike Shirley is one of them. Tanner McDougal stopped by. Paul Janisch. Who was the most interesting one? Who did you learn the most off of this weekend?
Yeah, so I mean, like for me, like we prepared for Janisch because we were told we were getting him. I mean, FutureSox is getting the farm director, right? Like that. I think that kind of makes sense. And then we knew we were getting Tanner McDougal, and we knew we were getting Sam Antonacci too. So that was like the three names that we prepared for. But it's kind of weird. It's like an assembly line, right? You're sitting there, and it's like, you guys want Mike Shirley? Do you want Connor McKnight? And we're like, yes, we do. And like, so we didn't prep questions for those guys. So it was like more of a free-flowing conversation. You can find that on our YouTube channel or just like wherever you get podcasts, like Apple Music. Like we have that up now, like all those interviews. So, I mean, look, I'm always going to think Mike Shirley is the most interesting because he's the draft guy, right? So like if you had Ian or Elijah, maybe they'd say, that it was like one of the other guys. But I just thought like Shirley, like peppering Shirley with questions on process and just like, like how do you go about this, like having the number one pick? And, like I asked him flat out, I was like, look, are you more excited, somebody in your position, are you more excited about the number one pick? Or are you more excited about the giant bonus pool that you have to spend it on the whole class, right? Because these are all like his babies. It's not like he's, you're excited for Rock Chalowski, but you're also excited for like what you can do with the rest of your class. So yeah, it was fun. We got afforded the opportunity with a few other like, non-traditional media to like go there and do this. And we appreciated it. It was kind of fun.
So Tanner McDougal, Sam Antonacci, those are two interesting names to me. McDougal, a guy that you've said it before. This is a guy who could be headed to the rotation at some point, and it'd be interesting to see if he shows up this year. And Antonacci, it was really funny. Like I was talking about the prospects with a couple of different people, and somebody I know pointed out to me, like, I don't know. I mean, I never even heard of him. Now, what is he, like 23, almost 24 years old? And now he's showing up on prospect list. It feels like he came out of nowhere. What's your impression of him? And are we going to see him this year?
He did kind of come out of nowhere. So he was playing at like Heartland Community College, and he was like the best JUCO player in the country. And then he went to Coastal Carolina, and he was great there. He's just like one of these grindy baseball guys. He's lefty Chase Mydroth. It's not a ton of power, right? But he plays a bunch of different spots, and he just finds a way to get on base all the time. And he's just, he's like our dad's favorite player, Chris. Like, he would come up. It's like what Nick Madrigal was supposed to be, right? Like it's like just grindy, and he was even like, man, I'm not used to this. Like there's so many people here. It's like, yeah, you were playing at Heartland Community College like a year and a half ago, and yeah, he got like $500,000. And he's been great in the system. I do think there's a chance that he takes some outfield reps this year. I know, the one thing, and I don't know if I've said this on your show, but me and Ian have talked about it. I think at a certain point, I don't know if you can have him and Mydroth, right? Because I just don't know if you can do 12,000 at bats with, or 1,200 at bats with like 7 homers total potentially. You know what I mean? It's not enough. You might have to pick one at some point, but yeah, this guy is like a definite big leaguer. I just don't know, like the amount of impact that it definitely is, but all the Chase Mydroth fans are going to love Sam Antonacci.
All right, so let's talk SoxFest. I haven't had a chance to really talk about it because let's be honest, to me, it's been one of those things that I look at and I go, God, I wish they would bring it back to the way it was. And I know some people love the intimacy of it, but it also feels like not everybody gets a chance to experience it because of that. What was your take on the weekend? This is the second year that they've done the pared down, the smaller version of it. What did you see? What did you hear? What were your takes?
I think it makes sense right now, but if they ever get good again, they need a bigger venue. It's not tenable.
Well, they probably made it smaller because you don't want people to sit around and complain. Like you make it bigger, you get that guy who isn't going to games but loves the team and yells at it through his television set, who's now going to show up and go, "What are you doing?" And they don't want that, so that's why it's smaller.
Yeah, and the panels are so tame now, and a lot of the questions were like sent in ahead of time for Chuck Garfien to read to Chris Getz and their layups. And like, look, some of the prospect stuff is cool. Like the kids like it. Like we kind of left. There's like video of Tanner McDougal drinking Malort because he like lost some game, and like that's fine, right? And if the people there like it, then that's cool. To me, I was more of like, I like the old school panels with the front office and you get to ask them questions, and it's not that anymore.
Yeah,
so.
I don't know if they'll ever bring that back. I mean, think about it. That was kind of I'll be honest, there were cool things about SoxFest. There was an awful lot of going and checking out memorabilia. I always thought that was kind of cool. There were a lot of autograph sites. I'm not as I've gotten older, I'm not as much into autographs. When I go searching autographs, it's always now something from 2005 that's hanging in the bar that I'm like, okay, well, I want to get this signed. Like, that's it. It's more for kids, that kind of thing, right? And then, of course, the autograph hounds. But then the other thing was the ability to stand in a panel and they don't know what you're going to ask. And you get up and you get to ask it, right? It was like the one time that a fan gets a voice, and that seems to be gone now.
Oh yeah, the days of like angering Kenny Williams at the lectern. Oh yeah, that's like that's not happening.
But not even angering. Like, I remember I got to ask Rick Renteria one time, like, hey, who makes the lineups? And it was the funniest answer because it took him like 12 minutes to dance around it with Rick Hahn sitting next to him because neither one of them knew who was really in charge at that point, and they were trying to figure it out because I asked the question. But like, that was the beauty of SoxFest, was the idea. That's the beauty of all these festivals. It's the idea that the fan gets an opportunity to talk, and it's not like pre-screened and run through 7 people and they decide whether or not it upsets the ownership. That's the one thing I don't like about this.
Well, I do think that there won't be a SoxFest next year because the players will be locked out.
Oh yeah.
And then January 28, hopefully they're good, and then they have a new idea. Because like, it's easy in and out at the Ramova, but it's just small, man. Like, it's not very big at all. And if this team is good, more people are going to want to go. So I do think changes are coming. I'm glad they brought it back. There's some like diehard blogger types and, fans that are on Twitter that you would know. Like, that part's fun. Going out and seeing the people was fun. But like the seminars and stuff, it's like, I don't really care. I think Brooke Fletcher does like an awesome job. She was great. And like Connor's good too. And those guys. But I mean, yeah, it's just, and the teams, like we do FutureSox, right? But the team's like not that interesting right now, other than, maybe a couple guys. Colson Montgomery was, probably the big star of the weekend, him and Teal. Like those are the 2 guys basically. And then, there's just like some other guys kind of hanging around too.
James Fox of FutureSox. You can hear all those interviews on his podcast. He's nice enough to jump on Sox in the Basement. Thanks so much, my friend.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.